Big update on Newey's future after the potential team releases statement. Lando has a lot to improve on if he wants to become champion, and Toto names his replacements for Lewis Hamilton. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Williams team principal James Vowles believes the warts and all conversations he had with Carlos Sainz about the honest trajectory of the team helped win his signature for F1 2025 and beyond. Sainz penned a deal with Williams for the next 2 seasons, with the option to extend as he put pen to paper on his next step in Formula One, as his time with Ferrari comes to an end at the conclusion of the F1 2024 season. Having been known to have had offers from elsewhere on the grid, with Audi having pursued Sainz for some time to look to spearhead their F1 entry from 2026, and Alpine having also reportedly made a late approach, the Spanish driver ultimately opted for Williams from next season. Vowles revealed he has been in talks with Sainz and his management for months, going back to last season in his pursuit of the Ferrari driver, as he looks to form the best partnership possible moving forward. But as to how he won out over factory teams, he believes the team's honesty in negotiations is what helped push them over the edge, and believes this to be a big moment for Williams. It actually started way back in Abu Dhabi last year, and the message I gave to him and to his family at the time is no different to the message I gave him last weekend in Spa, to be clear, and I believe that's what's won it, Vowles explained to media, including PlanetF1.com. From the beginning, I gave him warts and all. Here's what's going to happen. We are going to go backwards. Here's why. Here's what we're investing in. Here's what's coming. Here's why I'm excited by this project, and it's your choice very much if you want to be a part of it. But I know that we will have success in the future, and I know it's going to cost us in the short term, and I'm confident that that honesty and transparency has paid off. As much as there was more weight on the car, the actual aerodynamic performance of the car is in a reasonable place. We've just got to shed that weight off so that we can start fighting up at the front. I think what Carlos sees is what you need in the circumstance that he'll be in is strong leadership. And I'm not describing myself, I'm using his words. It's very big-headed of me to describe otherwise. And there's not one person. It's a team and the right investment to go forward, and he can see that with us. I think it's a huge, huge event for Williams to have 2 of the best drivers in the world fighting at the front. I think it is very much a sign of things to come, the fact that we are prepared to have the investment required to be there, and a lot of it you can't see. The one that you can materially see is what we're doing by effectively putting money where it should be, into the best drivers that are available to us. In terms of beating an OEM and one of the largest in the world, I'm incredibly proud. I said this to Carlos anyway. This is one of the proudest moments of my career, and I've had lots of great moments in my career, and the fact he chose us above all else is a huge, huge, monumental decision. It's monumental to beat these 2 organizations because they're both incredible organizations in their own right, and we can't underestimate them. The moment you do that is the moment you'd lose to them in the championship. But what Carlos recognized from us, and much of it you won't see, and you will never see, I'm afraid, but I did expose it to him, is what we're changing on the inside. That's what's exciting. Toto Wolff has confirmed Kimi Antonelli as the first option and Max Verstappen as an alternative scenario in the race to replace Lewis Hamilton in F1 2025. Antonelli is impressing in his maiden Formula 2 season, taking sprint victory at Silverstone and feature race glory at the Hungarian after a difficult start to the year in which his Prema team had been uncompetitive. Wolff has opted to hold off on making a decision on his replacement for Hamilton for now, waiting to see how highly rated teenager Antonelli develops in Formula 2, while also keeping a watching brief on Verstappen to see if he can be tempted away from his deal with Redbull, which expires in 2028. The Mercedes team principal has made it clear that he wants the best driver possible to partner George Russell next season, though acknowledged Verstappen may not be a realistic target at the moment. That said, given the talent of the 17-year-old, he explained why taking a risk on the Italian may end up not being a bad idea, given the state of Formula One changing regulations in 2026. The criteria for our next driver are simple. We want the best driver available, Wolff told Autosport World. At the moment, my first option is Kimi Antonelli. Of course, there are risks. They are not so much in his talent as a driver, but Antonelli would be exposed to the media and to the skill of George Russell, one of the best drivers on the grid. But Kimi has enormous potential. His speed and talent are already at a certain level, he just lacks the experience. An alternative scenario is of course Verstappen, But at the moment, that doesn't seem realistic to me. Other drivers would sign a 1 or 2 year contract, which is not enough for us. So I'm happy to take a risk with Antonelli, because it's a calculated risk. If you look at the progress of Oscar Piastri, it took him a 1.5 years to compete for victory at the level of teammate Lando Norris. We want to try and do the same with Kimi. In 2025, with the changes in 2026, we'll be in transition anyway, so it's a good season to form him into our team. In saying that, however, Wolff would not confirm that he is joining Mercedes for next year, adding, "I will continue to observe the market. I am not sure how things will evolve further at Red Bull." With speculation that he's set to sign for Aston Martin, the prospect of an Adrian Newey arrival has been addressed by team boss Mike Crack. Following confirmation in May that he is to leave Red Bull entirely by the middle of 2025, Newey has played a huge role in a summer of speculation which has linked him with pretty much every single team on the grid. Aston Martin has been the UK-based team with which Newey has been most linked since news of the 65-year-old's departure from Red Bull emerged. Newey still works for Red Bull, but has stepped away from the coalface of F1 as he serves a soft gardening leave period before his full departure by the middle of 2025. While Newey has indicated a desire to take a break from F1, he has been strongly linked with other teams ahead of the 2026 F1 regulations changes, including Ferrari, Williams, and McLaren. But it's Aston Martin that appears to be a particularly strong possibility, with billionaire team owner Lawrence Stroll having bolstered the technical side of the squad alongside its relentless infrastructure improvements back at its Silverstone base. Just this season, Aston Martin has announced the arrival of former Renault stalwart Bob Bell, former Mercedes' engine chief Andy Cowell, and Ferrari's chassis director Enrico Cardile. But Newey would be the cherry on top of what has been a strong recruitment drive for the Silverstone-based squad. Addressing the possibility in a summer shutdown column for the Aston Martin website, team boss Mike Crack was asked directly whether any further big-name signings can be expected, with Newey name dropped. "We're still in a period of growth, but I think we have to be open-minded and dynamic in terms of personnel as well as car development," Crack said, with Newey put to him as a free agent. "This isn't a sport that rewards consolidation. Obviously, that has to be constructed around a stable core. You need to have routines and you need to have trust, and establishing that trust can take a long time, but you should never sit back and say, 'We are fine.' There's always a need to be looking at what you can do better, what you can change. Doesn't necessarily mean you make that change, but you have to keep asking the question." We've announced several new members of the senior management team over the last few months, and each time someone new arrives, I'm asked the question, is that the last piece in the puzzle? It isn't. It never is. We'll continue to look at recruitment, because perhaps there's somebody else out there that's going to make us better. I say out there. It's important to never forget that we have a lot of talent within the team that we're consistently trying to develop and bring up through the organization. You look outside because the organization has to stay dynamic, has to be open to new perspectives, but we need to give the team that's already here the opportunity to mature, to express itself, to naturally migrate to areas of greater responsibility. While Aston Martin appeared to have broken through into the ranks of frontrunners last season, as the AMR23 was highly competitive at the start of the season, Crack refuted that the team is the finished article and said his outfit is still in the building phase ahead of a potential championship challenge in the coming years. Very much so, but the same can be said of any F1 team. You're constantly evolving, constantly finding ways to improve and get stronger, he said. We're expanding to the point of parity with the front-running teams in terms of numbers, and when the AMR Technology Campus is completed, we'll have a best-in-class facility for making F1 cars that also provides a pleasant, inspiring, and empowering environment in which to work, and a useful tool for recruitment that also hits all of our sustainability targets. Former racing driver Jan Lammers has backed Red Bull's approach of looking to promote from within to replace future Audi F1 team principal Jonathan Wheatley in F1 2025. Christian Horner confirmed in the announcement of Wheatley's departure that the strength and depth within Red Bull means that the sporting director's departure means it provides an opportunity to elevate others within the team. Wheatley will work with the team for the remainder of the season, completing 18 years as a Red Bull employee before undertaking a period of gardening leave, with Audi later confirming he will join their project no later than July 2025, where he will partner Mattia Binotto at the helm. It will be his first stint as team principal of a Formula One team as well, and former F1 driver and Le Mans winner Lammers explained that looking to move teams is part and parcel of a career. In replacing him, however, he added Red Bull's working culture and competent pool of people should be able to perform well in his stead. At some point, and this is quite normal, people just want something different, Lammers told RN365. Then you want a different challenge, a different field of work, and different colleagues. For that reason, you then just want to leave, not because there is anything wrong with where you work, so I think this will have been done in good consultation. Red Bull obviously has a competent pool of people. They have a lot to offer both in terms of drivers and team. Who wouldn't want to work at a top team and with a four-time world champion Max Verstappen, assuming he will succeed this year anyway? Of course, we often talk about the young talents behind the wheel, like Kimi Antonelli, for example, but there are also many young talents in other areas who could replace Wheatley. I don't think at Red Bull now everything has to fall over right away. If you've done very well, then of course you've just established a working culture. At some point it runs and it's in a protocol. If all goes well, Red Bull can build on what Wheatley has put down for a while, and when you implement something, you also usually show another person how to do it even better. Fernando Alonso has vented his frustration that Aston Martin has been unable to exploit Red Bull's performance cracks. Aston Martin is enduring a difficult campaign, which has seen the Silverstone-based outfit score just 73 points, a remarkable 123 shy of last season's total at the summer break stage, and with 2 races more this campaign. For the majority of last year, Aston Martin was Red Bull's closest competitor, resulting in 7 podiums for Alonso in the first 13 rounds of 2023. The Spaniard came close to winning on a few occasions, although Max Verstappen and Red Bull were too dominant. It is a very different story this season, as 7 different drivers have won a race. For Aston Martin, the end of Red Bull's dominance has come 12 months too late. It's the way it is, Alonso told select media, including Racing News 365. I think last year we were the best of the rest, but Red Bull was unbeatable. They never had a bad pit stop. They never had a crash. They never had a bad qualifying. They never had any problem. And then we were just third or second all the time. All the pictures of my podiums last year, they have Checo and Max with me. First and second or first and third, and I was in the middle. Even in the latter stages of last season when Red Bull showed weakness in Singapore, Aston Martin was unable to capitalize due to its problems. The British team began to struggle after introducing a mid-season upgrade package and has yet to truly recover, leading to a challenging year, with its best result Alonso's 5th in Saudi Arabia. Alonso recognizes it is up to the team to get itself back towards the front to make the most of when Red Bull is not firing on all cylinders. Things changed a little bit and we were not there to take the opportunity, conceded Alonso. We said many times last year, we need to keep up. We need to be always hunting them, and when they have any crack, we have to take the opportunity. And when they started to have any kind of problem, we were not there anymore. So that's up to us that we were not able to keep up with that pace. For all the impressive moments in Lando Norris's 2024 Formula One season, his approach to starts has been a significant Achilles' heel this year, and has lost him at least 2 race wins into the first corner. There have been a handful of notable moments in which Norris made inauspicious choices into Turn 1 this year, including his getaways from pole position at the Spanish and Hungarian Grand Prix. At Barcelona, Norris attempted to wrong-foot Max Verstappen into the opening corner, but was outfoxed by a fast-starting George Russell, who moved around the outside of the pair. In Hungary, Oscar Piastri got the better of Norris and held the inside line of the corner, which granted the Australian the early command over the race. Norris has since added another first-lap complication to his record at Spa after drifting wide on the exit of La Source. He brushed the gravel, which cost him momentum heading up the hill to the Kemmel Straight and thrust him down to 7th. And let's not forget the sprint race in China, where Norris was outdragged off the line by Lewis Hamilton to ensure he could not cover the inside, and ultimately ran out of road into the long right-hander that opens the Shanghai lap. It's not necessarily car position that is done for Norris in these instances, but rather the slower-than-ideal starts that restrict what he can do. In the cases of Spain, Hungary, and China, Norris entered the first corner with much less momentum relative to the car flanking him into the braking zone, and thus he did not have the latitude of track available to defend with. And thus, it forces a different approach from Norris, as he tends to retreat into a phase of tire saving to pick up his assault later. It's not a bad approach, but it's certainly an easier pursuit when leading a Grand Prix. The back-off and save strategy worked out in Miami, a race where he also lost a position on the first lap, but one cannot bank on the luck of a fortuitously timed safety car all the time. I've given away a lot of points over the last 3-4 races just because of stupid stuff, mistakes, and bad starts. Turn 1 now, Norris reflected after the Belgian Grand Prix. I think I just need to reset. The last 2-3 races I've just not clicked as much as I needed to, and given up a lot of points, so hopefully I can come back strong. Of course, there's going to be a psychological barrier to overcome. It all feeds into a self-fulfilling feedback loop, where instances of the same mistakes start to give rise to the internal narrative of, I make this mistake, therefore I'm probably going to make it again. It sounds overly reductive to boil Norris's starting issues down to the stance of, it's easy, just don't make the same error. But that's ultimately the end goal here. And when the West Country native gets a clean getaway, it'll eventually fall into place at the starts. But the process of breaking through that psychological barrier isn't simple. He can count on the support of his McLaren team, and drivers these days are usually armed with psychological coaches who can impart valuable advice to assist. It takes a lot of mental strength to retrain your brain into thinking differently, but that's one part of the process. We work with Lando, like we work with Oscar, to try and see all the opportunities in which we can improve individually, but also collaborate better, said team principal Andrea Stella. It definitely gives us some elements to analyze as to how some of these missed opportunities manifest themselves. For Lando, for instance, it looks like there are statistically some opportunities that tend to happen in the early stages of the race, so we need to check whether this is early stages of the race for a reason, or it's just random. Like any other athlete or driver, Lando, with the support of the team, will think, what can I do better to make sure we capitalize on the good work we are doing? And last year, Norris demonstrated that he can start well and make up ground. Remember his opening moves at the British Grand Prix to take the lead? There was also his sweep around Piastri to move up to second at Suzuka in 2023, and another shuffle up to the lead at the USGP over pole-sitter Charles Leclerc. It's in his repertoire then, but it's also true that he hasn't made up a single position off the line this year. Norris either retains position or loses one or several places. And if he has aspirations of winning a championship, that's going to become a problem if it doesn't turn around. He and McLaren will need to find a way of improving the situation, whether it's a mental roadblock to overcome, or if the settings on the car can be played with to make it a little easier to get up to speed. Perhaps the summer break comes at the right time then. After all, there's not much time to sit down and reset when there's 5 races in the span of 6 weeks. If Norris comes back from the break and makes a good start to Zandvoort, then the confidence will start to flow. If not, McLaren might need to find a way to stop its title outsider from spiraling. Thanks for watching the video, everyone.